Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This time we're going to be talking about Torchlight 3 and just covering some important quick things about this game just to know if you decide to play it or try it out, and my thoughts on this game. As you can see here, they come up with a message to join the community, and it says view known issues, submit suggestions, vote on feedback as the middle option there. And that's important to know, as when I first played this game, I thought this is a finished game. It's available on multiple platforms. It's been out a while. I'm playing it through Game Pass, and I thought, okay, it's probably patched and updated and stuff like that. But as I read through the December's patch notes, it's a very different game before the December patch compared to currently. You have different character classes that you can play as, different character pets. Here you can see the llama's legs are down on the floor. But all the classes are pretty good to play. I've been having the most fun recently with this one, which is the mage, but you wouldn't tell it by the way it's built right now. But let's just hop into some multiplayer. If you like older style games such as the Diablo style of games, Gauntlet eventually was in this style, and there's other ones as well. But it's team up with your friends, hack and slash through some dungeons, through some simple quests. It's quite a linear storyline. You can't really get lost or confused of what to do necessarily. But let's just jump in and talk about some important things. Nothing too in-depth, just general things. You have all the buttons you can push down at the bottom of the screen. There will be quests that you can talk to. We'll talk about the issues and the glitches and some strange things that happen later on in the video. But right now, just to think, it is playable. Just expect some things to happen. I learned from a different YouTube video that the game is technically an early release, or at the time of maybe like September it was an early release, but I personally would like to know that so I can be in a certain mindset when I play the game. If you, like Grounded, for instance, which is also through Game Pass, it tells you that this whole game in progress, it's working. Expect there to be updates and their fixes and stuff like that. But I feel like this game wasn't as upfront about that. So basically, you just fight the enemies. You don't get a lot of experience points per enemy, and if they're lower level than you, then you sometimes just get a fraction of 1%. And before it seems like, oh, you're just gaining like 1 experience points per enemy, it's not that overall slow of a progression, even though compared to most normal RPGs that would be insanely low for you to actually progress. But by default, all the numbers are turned off in this game. So you would just progress at a certain fixed rate based on the area that you're in and the difficulty that you play on, only in that the stronger monsters, which give a little more experience points, spawn more often on the harder difficulties. So right now this character is basically on what is, I think it's hard mode is what this character is on, and you get a slight chance of finding better gear, like 5% chance. But yeah, basically you just hack and slash, fight the monsters, level up, spend your points. Overall, you can decorate your fort. It's not quite as in-depth as The Sims, but it's a general idea of what it's like. Put on better gear. Let's see, some important things to know about this game would be, well, there's a right trigger to go through certain menus. And say you go over to your pet. Well, at the top of the screen it says left button inventory, right bumper contract. But at the bottom right hand corner of the screen it says right bumper pet shopping. Maybe you forget you're on the screen, you hit right bumper to go to skills, but what is this? Well, there's a nice feature that your pet can be away from you for a certain amount of time. I think it's like 2-3 minutes, and they can purchase potions for you if you're like in the middle of a dungeon, or they can sell your items for you, which is a really cool and convenient feature. That's a good idea. Just remember that about the controls, the bumpers and the triggers. So I kind of like to learn to go left bumper through these things. You get contracts, which just happen as you play the game. You'll get decorations for your forts, maybe a chance to get a random good gear, some gold and stuff like that. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. Here's your map. This basically shows you, a linear progression. You just keep pushing right on the left stick to go in order. Um, and in between locations where, say, it says overgrown trek or well-trodden path, that's where your fort will be located once you do that quest. And there's times when you can go through here and you can put right on the D-pad, travel to the main town or your fort when you do unlock that, but say you're going to town. Now, once you go to town, there'll be the load screen, and you'll do your shopping and you'll sell your items, and there's a character that you can buy potions from that you'll probably need that, especially in the harder difficulties. And up here you can go and have a random chance of getting better gear that's on your level. I would say this is mainly useful for if you have a low level item that you're using and you're not using it because of one super exacting stat that you just like, I have to have that stat, like faster attack speed or more gold chance, or um, whatever it is that you feel is important on your character. If you feel like there's certain things you want to get into, but if not, you can totally play the game just fine and just put on whatever. It's not going to mess up the game or like make it too difficult, which is nice. But anyway, say you're like, now how do I get back to my portal? So if you go back to the traveling shrine here, okay, you can see it at the left, your portal. But if you push left on this thumbstick, it does not go over there. At the bottom right hand corner, you see toggle map, quests, home, and B button close. Well, like, what? That makes no sense. And this game, was developed on PC, so you could just mouse over it if you're on PC, but you're not. If you're on console, it's this. So you actually have to hit left trigger, which says home, but it should say maybe left menu, or it should say your portal or your fortress. But it goes now over here to where you can select area map, your fort, or your portal. And again, that's the left trigger that you would push that. The right trigger back to map, left trigger over to this side menu, and you go back to your portal. That is an important thing that it took me forever to figure out or realize, because I feel like the labeling on the HUD just wasn't very good and expressive in explaining what that is. Okay, so let's get down to like the issues and the glitches. So if you're playing with a different pet, I can show you what some of those are. A lot of the geometry in the world, I'm not sure what they used to build this game, but you could look up which engine they used, or maybe they made their own, maybe. It puts your pet on generally the same path and area as you are, but there are some little strange glitches in areas where if you play with a non-standard pet, standard being the default dog, default llama, or default owl, the game, such as the cat here, it has a hard time figuring out where to put the cat in the geometry. And there are abilities that say, if your pet is next to you, it'll trigger it, or if there was a certain distance to you, it'll trigger it. But whenever the game can't figure out where to place the animal accurately, your pet, it can't figure out to give you those benefits. And there are times whenever you put on certain skills, which this is your normal skills for yourself, and then right trigger, more skills, right trigger, right trigger, right trigger. Okay, here's your pet skills. And as you find more pets in boss dungeons, which you can keep just playing over and over again, you'll get different kinds of pets, and each one will have a different ability. But certain skills, like if you assign it in the middle of combat, or you assign it some places out there, it just won't work for some reason. There's times when I've had to go back to this pet shelter, which you get by completing a quest, and you have to select it in the build menu, which is down on the D-pad. right bumper to functional, right trigger, right trigger. It would be, uh, I guess it would be in crafting. Anyway, it guides you when you actually do that. Um, but yeah, so I'd have to go to pet shelter. I'd have to change over to like my other pet, say, I don't know, whatever, this dog. I'd have to swap, and then I would have to go back to the one that I want and swap back, and that would kind of reset and reload the pet for the game's logic, and then it would work. Then it would be fine for the benefits and stuff like that. As far as other skills, it's very important that you go to this menu, which they don't tell you about, but you can pick any legendary item that you find will have a certain ability, and you can assign it for free without having to use that specific item. This is a really nice feature, and to me personally, the Frenzy's Blade is the best choice. Other than this Godspeard's Glove, where potions heal you more and you have a higher chance of finding potion. That's very important on normal and hard mode, especially because you can just run out of potions on hard mode. But very hard mode, you have an increased chance of finding potions, so it kind of negates that. I do like Quicksilver as well, but Frenzied Blade is very important. Your basic attacks get faster and faster and faster and faster. Now, speaking of attacks and the math and building your character, again, if you're not into that, it's fine, it doesn't really matter. But you should know that each weapon has a default damage number, but that's not an active adjusted number. It's just like, say it's 10 instead of 110 or 101. But it says basic attack slowly slash monsters in an arc for 433% weapon damage. So that's the percentage multiplier for this great weapon, which is a two-handed sword. Different ones do different things. This basic attack for this rifle, a single round dealing 140% weapon damage. Well, it's a huge difference. 400% is like times 4, and 140% is like times 1.4 or almost 1.5. But the speed of the weapons matter by default. But with Frenzied on your Legendarium, your attack speed goes up. And it's very rare to find gear that increases your attack speed, but I highly recommend that. But as far as the glitches, other than the pets kind of messing up, sometimes if you play as the conductor, I've had the train just get stuck in the floor, and if you use like the shield on the train, it'll be at where the 3D model is, just stuck in the floor. I've had the game just quit out to the Xbox's home menu if you play it for a long time. I've had the game completely crash my Xbox. It seemed like no permanent damage was done, but that's just a very worrisome thing. But again, that's if you're playing it for a very long time. And if you're wondering how do I save the game, because you don't want it to crash or freeze or stuff like that, it doesn't happen often. I've only had it 3 times out of playing for probably, I don't know by now, 40 hours in multiple characters. But just go to select, or the left button on your controller in the center. Go down to help. Help is very important. But just go to exit to title. And then you can choose multiplayer, which only your multiplayer characters exist in multiplayer. You can hit single player, where only your single players exist. Your characters can share gear within your fort crate box with each other. So single characters share it with them, multiplayer characters share it with them. You cannot trade or give any items to your friends or stuff like that, and loot is independent per player, per treasure chest and box. So what I see on my screen is not what they see on their screen, and they can't take my stuff. So that should about cover it up. Thank you for watching overall on Torchlight 3, and I hope this helps decide if you would like to play this game. And I would say now is a good time to give it a try. It's pretty stable overall, and they got a lot of patches, and I'm sure more to come. So thank you for watching, and we'll see another game on Game Pass soon. Thank you.